Abraham Lincoln was the 16th President of the United States. Elected during a time of great tension between the North and the South, Lincoln was disliked by many Southerners due to his views on slavery. Although he insisted that he would not interfere with slavery where it already exists, Southerners felt threatened, and their hostility toward President Lincoln eventually led to the South seceding from the Union and an ensuing Civil War. Lincoln received several death threats during his presidency and was ultimately shot and killed on April 14, 1865. Abraham Lincoln married Mary Todd on November 4, 1842. Born into a wealthy family, she was well educated, including in areas of the arts. Todd studied drama, music, and dance at a young age, and as a result of this, she enjoyed attending the theater later in life. After marrying Lincoln, the two often attended plays together. Abraham and Mary Lincoln often attended Ford's Theater in Washington, D.C. during his presidency. In Ford's Theater, they sat in the President's Box, an open decorated balcony above the rest of the crowd. At this time, the President of the United States had little to no protection. Lincoln's President's Box was unguarded. On the night of April 14, 1865, during the performance of Our American Cousin at Ford's Theater, President Abraham Lincoln was shot in the back of the head by an assassin while sitting next to his wife Mary in the President's Box. After the shooting, Lincoln was carried across the street to the Peterson House. He died here the next day on April 15, 1865. President Lincoln's assassin was John Wilkes Booth, a popular actor at the time. Born in Bel Air, Maryland on May 10, 1838, he grew up to be a strong supporter of slavery, even assisting with the capture of John Brown at Harper's Ferry. Booth despised President Lincoln and was even further outraged when Lincoln began to discuss the possibility of voting rights being given to blacks. Booth's original plan was to kidnap the president, however it was later changed to a triple assassination attempt. Booth had a total of 8 co-conspirators in his plot, including Lewis Payne and David Herold. These two men were supposed to kill the Secretary of State, William Seward. Payne succeeded in attacking Seward, and although he was badly wounded, he survived. The next important conspirator was George Atzerodt. His target was Vice President Andrew Johnson. However, Atzerodt lost his nerve and could not complete the task. The remaining 5 conspirators were Edward Spangler, Samuel Arnold, Michael O'Laughlin, Samuel Mudd, and Mary Surratt. Surratt had minimal involvement in the conspiracy. She ran a boarding house where some of the men hid from capture. Most people expected her to be reprieved, however she was sentenced to death during the conspirators' trial, making her the first woman in history to be executed. On April 26th of 1865, John Wilkes Booth and David Herold were cornered in a barn in Virginia by federal troops in order to surrender. Herold cooperated, but Booth refused, so the soldiers set the barn on fire. Union Sergeant Boston Corbett found an opening in the side of the barn, through which he shot Booth in the back. Booth died soon after from his wound. Mary Surratt, Lewis Payne, George Atzerodt, and David Herold were hanged for their crimes at the Washington Penitentiary on July 7, 1865. Although the presidency of Abraham Lincoln was surrounded by tension and controversy, he is now considered to be one of the greatest presidents of all time. The Lincoln Memorial, constructed in 1922, is located on the corner of Independence Avenue and 23rd Street in Washington, D.C.